You're sitting there with your credit card statement open on your phone, and you see it. $847 charged on a card with a $1,000 limit. Not maxed out, but close. You paid everything on time last month. You've never missed a payment. You're responsible. And yet somehow your credit score dropped 15 points. You refresh the app twice, convinced it's a glitch. It's not. And here's the thing that drives you absolutely crazy. Nobody told you this would happen. The banks didn't send an email. Your card didn't come with a warning label. There's this invisible rule book they're scoring you against, and you're only finding out about it when the damage is already done. My name is Nick, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, credit systems, and why the financial industry seems designed to keep regular people perpetually confused about the very tools they're supposed to be using to build wealth. And what I've realized is that credit utilization, this one number that can tank your score overnight, is probably the most misunderstood, poorly explained aspect of personal credit in America. Banks benefit from your confusion. Credit card companies profit when you carry balances. And the credit bureaus? They've built an entire scoring system around metrics that most people discover only after they've accidentally violated them. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to walk you through exactly how credit utilization actually works, why the standard advice you've heard is incomplete at best and misleading at worst, and what you can do right now to stop sabotaging your score without even knowing it. Because once you understand the real mechanics behind this, the stuff the banks conveniently leave out of their glossy brochures, you'll never look at your credit cards the same way again. Let me start with what you've probably heard. Everyone says keep your credit utilization under 30%. Use less than a third of your available credit and you'll be fine. Simple, right? Except it's not simple at all, and honestly that 30% figure is already doing you a disservice. Here's what's actually happening. Credit utilization is the ratio between how much credit you're using and how much you have available. If you have a card with a $10,000 limit and you charge $3,000, you're at 30% utilization. The credit bureaus, Experian, Equifax, TransUnion, they track this number religiously because in their algorithmic worldview, it's a predictor of risk. Someone maxing out their cards looks desperate. Someone using barely any of their available credit looks stable, in control, financially comfortable. But here's the first thing banks don't explain. That 30% threshold, it's not actually the goal. It's more like the bare minimum to avoid disaster. If you want to optimize your credit score, if you're trying to qualify for a mortgage, get approved for a premium rewards card, or just maximize your financial options, you need to be thinking in terms of 10% or lower, maybe even 5%. I know that sounds extreme. You're thinking, Nick, I'm supposed to use less than 5% of my available credit? What's even the point of having the card? And I get it, it feels counterintuitive, but this is where the system gets really interesting because credit utilization isn't just about whether you're responsible, it's about signaling to lenders that you don't need the credit. The less you appear to need it, the more attractive you become as a borrower. It's this weird financial paradox. The system rewards you for not needing what it's offering. Let me give you an example. Two people, both with perfect payment histories. Person A has a total credit limit of $20,000 across all their cards and consistently carries a balance of around $5,000. That's 25% utilization. Not terrible. Person B has the same $20,000 in available credit but keeps their balances under $1,000 total, 5% utilization. Person B will have a noticeably higher credit score, even though both are paying their bills on time, even though both are technically responsible users. The only difference is perception. Person B looks like they have their financial life together in a way that Person A doesn't, even if Person A is actually wealthier, earns more, and using credit strategically for cash flow management. And here's where it gets even more frustrating. Most people think utilization is calculated monthly, like at the end of your billing cycle. You pay off your card, start fresh, everything resets. Except that's not how it works. The number that gets reported to the credit bureaus is typically your statement balance, whatever you owe on the day your statement closes, not the day your payment is due. So you could charge $800, pay it off completely before the due date, never carry a balance, never pay a cent in interest, and still get dinged for high utilization if that $800 was sitting on your account when the statement generated. This is the part that makes me genuinely angry on behalf of basically everyone who's ever used a credit card, because the financial literacy advice we all grew up with says pay your balance in full every month to avoid interest. That's good advice, it's correct advice, but it's incomplete. Nobody mentions that timing matters just as much as whether you pay. You can follow all the rules, avoid debt, be financially responsible in every traditional sense, and still hurt your credit score because you didn't understand the reporting cycle. So what do? The strategy that actually works is this: pay down your balances before your statement closes, not before the due date, before the statement even generates. Let's say your statement closes on the 15th of every month, and your payment is due on the 10th of the following month. Most people wait until the 10th to pay. Smart people, trying to optimize, pay on the 16th right after the statement posts. But the people who really understand the system, they're paying on the 14th, getting their balance as low as possible before the snapshot gets taken and sent to the credit bureaus. I started doing this myself maybe 3 years ago, and my credit score jumped almost 40 points in 2 months. 40 points. I didn't change my spending habits. I didn't suddenly become more financially responsible. I just shifted when I made my payments by a couple of weeks. That's it. And the fact that this isn't common knowledge, that you have to stumble across this information in a random forum or hear it from a friend who works in finance, it tells you everything you need to know about whose interests the system is designed to serve. Now here's another layer that almost nobody talks about. Credit utilization is calculated 2 ways: per card and overall. Let's say you have 3 cards. Card 1 has a $5,000 limit and you've charged $4,000, 80% utilization on that specific card. Card 2 has a $10,000 limit with 0 balance. Card 3 has a $5,000 limit with $1,000 charged, 20% utilization. Your overall utilization across all 3 cards is $5,000 out of $20,000 total available credit, which is 25%. Not bad overall. But here's the thing: the credit scoring models don't just look at your overall utilization. They also penalize you for having any single card with high utilization, even if your overall ratio is fine. So in this example, that first card at 80% is actively hurting your score, even though you have $15,000 in unused credit sitting on your other cards. The system wants to see that you're spreading your usage across multiple accounts, keeping each individual card low, not leaning too heavily on any one source of credit. This is why people with good credit often have multiple cards. It's not because they're living beyond their means or drowning in debt. It's because having more cards, more total available credit, makes it mathematically easier to keep utilization low without actually changing spending habits. If you spend $2,000 a month on your card and you have one card with a $5,000 limit, you're at 40% utilization every month. If you have 3 cards with a combined $15,000 limit and you still spend the same $2,000, you're suddenly at 13% utilization. Same spending, different score. And this gets into one of the most controversial pieces of credit advice I give people. Sometimes keeping a card you don't use is actually smart. People love to talk about closing old accounts, simplifying their financial lives, cutting up cards they don't need. And I understand the impulse, but if you close a card with a $10,000 limit, you just reduced your total available credit by $10,000. If you were carrying any balance on your other cards, your utilization percentage just spiked. Your score drops, all because you wanted to declutter. There's this almost moral dimension to how people think about credit cards, like having too many is irresponsible or keeping cards you don't use is somehow dishonest. But the credit scoring system doesn't care about your moral relationship with plastic rectangles. It cares about ratios, patterns, risk indicators. And in that system, more available credit, assuming you're not actually using it, is almost always better. Let me tell you about someone I know. Friend of a friend, super disciplined with money, paid off all her student loans early, never carried credit card debt. She had 2 cards, both with modest limits, maybe $3,000 each, total of $6,000 in available credit. She'd use them for everyday purchases, pay them off every month, and felt like she was doing everything right. And she was, in terms of not going into debt, but her credit score was stuck in the low 700s. Good, not great. She couldn't figure out why. Turns out she was regularly using about $2,000 a month across both cards for normal expenses, groceries, gas, utilities, whatever. 2,000 out of 6,000 is 33% utilization, right at that threshold everyone warns you about. She applied for a new card with a better rewards program and got approved for a $10,000 limit, and suddenly her total available credit jumped to $16,000. She kept spending the same $2,000 a month, but now it was 2,000 out of 16,000, 12% utilization. Her score went up almost 30 points within 3 months. She didn't change her behavior at all, she just changed the denominator in the equation. This is what I mean when I say the system is designed to confuse you. The actions that improve your score often have nothing to do with actual financial responsibility. They're about understanding the mechanics, gaming the algorithm, knowing which levers to pull. And banks aren't going to teach you this because an informed customer is a less profitable customer. Here's another thing that almost nobody talks about. Credit utilization has no memory. Unlike payment history, which stays on your report,